Hey everyone, I'm John Bozek with Electric Bike Report, and for this review I have the NIU BQI-C3 Pro here with me today. First of all, that's quite a mouthful to say over and over again, so I'll probably refer to it almost exclusively as the C3 Pro for the rest of the video. This is a Class 2 and 3 e-bike that's geared heavily toward commuters. As such, it offers pedal-assisted speeds of up to 28 miles per hour, and it also has a throttle with a 20 mile per hour limit. It has fenders, a heavy-duty rear cargo rack, as well as a headlight with a super cool running light and a tail light with brake light functionality. Aside from the bike's obvious visual appeal, one of the main draws for the C3 Pro is the fact that it comes standard with dual batteries that are fully concealed and integrated into the frame. These give the bike an advertised range of between 60 and 90 miles. We put that claim to the test and also evaluated the bike's brakes, its motor and pedal assist system, its hill climbing ability, and more. So be sure to stick around to see how the bike performed for us. Before we get started, please take a moment to hit that subscribe button and the notification bell. This helps support the channel and makes it easier for you to see more of our content when we upload new videos. We're always talking about awesome e-bikes like this one, and we'd love to help you find the one that's just right for you. So the C3 Pro is the first e-bike model from NIU, which is a large, well-established company that is much better known outside of the US for its electric mopeds and scooters. With some Googling, I learned that the brand's name is a Chinese word that means ox or bull. So with that history in mind, we were pretty interested to see how the company's first steps into the e-bike market would pan out here, and we were pretty surprised with what we learned. First things first, we think this bike's design is just visually stunning. Its two-tone paint job is clean and contemporary, and we really love how its dual batteries are both hidden completely by being fully integrated into the frame and also highlighted by that bright red accent. We've never seen an e-bike, especially one with a step-thru frame, look quite this sleek before, and we couldn't be happier with its looks. That step-thru frame is a big focal point though. It has an incredibly low standover height of just 12.6 inches, so it's really easy to get on and off the bike. This is by far one of the lowest we've seen among the e-bikes we've tested so far, and it's a great feature that makes the bike more accessible for riders wearing business attire and also for those with limited mobility who might not be able to lift a leg up very high. The C3 Pro comes in just a single frame size, which, thanks in large part to an adjustable stem, accommodates riders between 5'3" and 6'1". From our research, this includes all but about the shortest third of women or the tallest third of men when looking at populations worldwide. In our testing, we found that the C3 Pro was a pretty unique e-bike overall, with some unusual design features that offer clear benefits, but that also come with a few drawbacks or at least some trade-offs. Personally, it took me a bit of time to wrap my head around the bike and its approach, so let's jump in and take a closer look. Let's kick things off here by talking a bit more about the C3 Pro's dual batteries, which again are integrated fully into the down tube and seat tube sections of the frame. Each battery is a 48 volt, 460 watt hour unit, so combined that gives the bike a full 920 watt hour capacity. That's pretty big for any e-bike, but when combined with the 500 watt rear hub motor that we see here, it looks even better. For the sake of efficiency, we usually like to see a 1-to-1 ratio between battery watt hours and motor watts, and we're approaching a 2-to-1 ratio here, which is pretty nuts. A few quick notes about the batteries. The bike draws power from both simultaneously, which is really nice. Some dual battery setups require you to stop and physically swap out batteries to get full use of them, or else drain one battery completely before touching the other. So we were really happy to see the C3 Pro use both at the same time and also drain power from them very evenly. Additionally, the bike comes with a charger that has a splitter, so that allows you to plug both batteries in to charge them at the same time too. This is something we haven't seen very often, so as dual battery setups become more popular over time, we'd love to see other brands follow this trend. As I mentioned before, the C3 Pro is a Class 3 e-bike that can hit 28 miles per hour with pedal assistance, but interestingly, it only has a single-speed drivetrain. That includes a 50-tooth chainring and a 22-tooth cog on the freewheel. We'll talk a bit more about the implications of that in our circuit test section later in the video, but it definitely gives the bike a user experience that stands out in some good ways and others that could be improved. One really great feature is the Gates belt drive that's included here. This, combined with the absence of a multi-speed cassette, means that the bike is going to be super low maintenance. You won't need to replace parts regularly, and the system doesn't require lubrication, so you also won't need to worry about getting grease on your pants if you bump up against the chainring when you're riding. The bike uses mechanical disc brakes with 180mm rotors on both wheels. We typically like to see hydraulic brakes on e-bikes that are both heavy and capable of Class 3 speeds, but NIU advised us that they chose these to also be easy to maintain. Again, the bike has these nice commuter features I mentioned earlier, like the fenders, lights, and cargo rack. This rack has a bit of a heavier construction than we typically see on commuter e-bikes, giving it a 66-pound weight capacity. I did some Googling to see what common things weighed about that much and came up with about 6 gallons of paint or 33 pineapples. So, you know, go crazy. The C3 Pro's saddle is a custom NIU model that I found pretty comfortable. I also really liked the large pedals. The 27.5-inch by 2.4-inch tires are custom too, and they're definitely meant for paved surfaces, but they have a 1.5 millimeters of Kevlar lining, which makes them puncture resistant, so that's awesome too. Moving up to the cockpit, there are some really great ergonomics here. First, the handlebar shape. It has a moderate sweep and it's really comfortable. The grips are ergonomic rubber with supportive wings. And on top of that, the bike's stem is adjustable, so that's going to allow you to find the height that fits you best. And it's one of the reasons the bike can fit a nice broad range of riders. Aside from brake levers, the left handlebar has the bike's small and simple control panel, as well as a nice trigger-style bell. And the right bar has a thumb-operated throttle lever. Personally, I might have liked to see a half-twist throttle here for reasons we'll get into later, but this one definitely does the job. I really liked the color LCD display here though. It seems to be a custom setup that we haven't seen before. It's pretty simple, but it's really clean and kind of futuristic looking, and I think it matches the bike's aesthetic really well. And before we move on, I want to mention the front headlight again. I think the super cool halo light really adds to the bike's appeal. As long as the bike is on, it serves as a running light that's always on, so it helps to increase rider visibility, and when C3 Pro's light system is activated, it's big and bright and definitely functional. That ought to do it for the BQI-C3 Pro's specs and components. Let's get into the fun part and see what happened when we put this bike to the test. With the speeds at which e-bikes are capable of traveling, it is crucial that they have effective brakes. To evaluate brake systems, we pedal every e-bike we test up to 20 miles per hour and then hit the brakes to stop as quickly as we can while still maintaining control. We measure the distance it takes the bike to stop, repeat the process 2 more times, and then calculate an average stopping distance from those results. As I mentioned before, the C3 Pro uses mechanical disc brakes on 180mm rotors on both the front and rear wheels. With those brakes, 3 sets of data, and no pineapples, the bike's average stopping distance turned out to be 21 feet 9 inches. This is definitely slower than average when looking only at the commuter e-bikes we've tested. It's not a bad result overall though, especially when considering that these are mechanical brakes and not hydraulics. NIU told us that they used thicker brake rotors and upgraded brake pads on the C3 Pro, so that's a pretty decent compromise for a system that's easier to maintain. That said, if you're doing most of your travel at the bike's top speed of 28 miles per hour and you're regularly carrying cargo, you might want to consider upgrading these to a hydraulic system for more responsive braking. For our circuit test, we pedal every e-bike around a 1-mile loop made up of 4 right turns and a small 30-foot hill. We do this first with no assistance from the motor, and then again in each pedal assist setting. This gives us an idea of the bike's motor engagement, its handling, and its speeds at those different PAS settings. The C3 Pro keeps things pretty simple with its single-speed drivetrain and also by using just 3 pedal assist settings. When we first looked at the bike, this stood out to us as being pretty unusual, especially when considering that this is a Class 3 e-bike that goes up to 28 miles per hour. 3 settings definitely didn't seem like enough to distribute that much speed intuitively, but that sort of thing is specifically why we do this test. The bike did pretty well on our first lap with no motor assistance. With only 1 gear, it's not the easiest thing to pedal with just leg power, especially when you're going uphill, but the C3 Pro isn't super heavy. It's just over 70 pounds, so overall, if you're moving on flat ground, you could do far worse. In PAS1, we found that you get an impactful amount of assistance from the motor, but your pedaling still matters a lot. Going uphill was still a little tough for us, but overall the bike felt pretty good here. It was a nice, casual cruising speed. PAS2 kicked things up significantly. Our data here landed right at 20 miles per hour, but with turns and a much easier uphill segment that ends up a little slower than we were actually going on straightaways. In PAS3, our data showed an average speed of about 24 miles per hour, but again, the bike was going faster and hitting its top speed on those flat and straight sections. With that much speed in its max setting, the bike had absolutely no trouble going uphill. As far as handling goes, I found the bike's 27.5-inch wheels to be surprisingly nimble. The bike maneuvers and corners smoothly and easily, and after taking my first ride, I was actually surprised to learn that it didn't have 26-inch wheels. One thing I really liked about the C3 Pro was that regardless of which pedal assist setting you're in, the motor's power builds slowly. This helps to make sure that you're not surprised by it kicking in, and it means that the bike doesn't feel like it's going to run away from you. That said, there are definitely a few changes that we feel would help to improve the C3 Pro's experience. First, while we appreciate the simplicity of the bike's drivetrain and pedal assist system, when using PAS2 and 3, we found ourselves mostly ghost pedaling, or basically just moving the pedals to keep the motor going. We weren't really engaged with the drivetrain or helping to move the bike any more than the motor was already doing, except maybe when going uphill. But regardless, on the current setup, we think that a larger chainring would help out a lot. This would allow the rider to stay engaged at higher speeds, and you could still make use of the throttle to help when starting out. Additionally, we think that the C3 Pro would benefit from an increase to 5 pedal assist settings instead of the 3 that it currently has, as the jumps in speed and motor output between its different settings can feel a little extreme. Alternatively, the option to adjust maximum speeds for its 3 settings would be welcome, as it would allow the rider to tailor the bike's feel to their environment and personal preferences. We do foresee many riders just choosing to use the bike's throttle exclusively, which is why I mentioned that a half-twist throttle might be appropriate here, but even with the thumb lever throttle included currently, there is flexibility with how the bike can be used. Our range test is actually 2 separate trials where we pedal the bike until its battery runs out. The first test is done in the lowest pedal assist setting that provides constant input from the motor, and the second is done with maximum assistance. For each test, we measure the distance the bike was able to travel, and we compare that to the range advertised by the bike's manufacturer. This test is where we saw the most potential for the C3 Pro thanks to its dual 48-volt, 460 watt-hour batteries and NIO's advertised range of between 60 and 90 miles. One quick caveat here, we performed our testing with a single battery just due to the time it would take to travel up to 90 miles, with the assumption that we could double our result and end up at a pretty reliable figure. Again, we noticed that the C3 Pro drew power from its batteries at the same rate, at least when judging by its display, so that added to our confidence in using this method. With one battery, the bike traveled 28.9 miles with maximum assistance in PAS3. In PAS1, we made it a very impressive 48.3 miles. If we double those figures and round to an even result, we end up with a real-world range of 58 to 97 miles, which is spot on with NIO's claimed results. This makes sense because the brand performed its own testing in PAS1 with a 165-pound rider on a flat road without wind and at an average speed of 9 miles per hour. I've got to be honest and say that I feel a little bad for that person. Our result with a single battery took almost 4 hours and we went about 3 miles per hour faster, so I'm sure that was a really long day. Regardless, we appreciate it when brands do their own testing and include their methods, and we're very happy to see such a close correlation with our results. One thing to note before I move on is that the C3 Pro itself is UL 2849 certified, so it meets the safety standards for electric bikes. This means that both its electrical and mechanical components, including its batteries, have been tested for performance and safety. Its batteries and motor are also certified to be waterproof, so this bike just comes with some great protective features, and we're really pleased to see that NIU had all of this testing done. To test every bike's hill climbing ability, we take them to a local hill called Hellhole, which is a steep but paved path that's 1/3 of a mile long with an average grade of 12%. This is a pretty serious challenge for most e-bikes, and some that we test don't make it all the way to the top. We do this test both in the max pedal assist setting and with just the throttle to see if a bike has what it takes to make the climb. The C3 Pro is a pretty interesting case when it comes to this test. The bike actually did not make it to the top when we tested it with just its throttle, but it performed very well when we pedaled up in PAS3. On that second successful trip, the C3 Pro confidently made the climb in 1 minute and 10 seconds with an average speed of 15.5 miles per hour. This is on the complete opposite end of the spectrum and ended up being quite a bit faster than we expected. It's not uncommon for throttle-only results to be less impressive than those with maximum pedal assistance. From our point of view though, this just goes to show that A, you can never know what's going to happen on this test, and B, this test shouldn't be a major factor in determining if an e-bike is good or not. It's just one part of the big picture. Honestly, I found the bike's throttle to be more than capable when I tested it on smaller hills and flat ground. The bike's rear hub motor is a 500-watt unit that's never going to match motors with higher wattage or torque, but it has no trouble getting the C3 Pro up to 28 miles per hour or powering up hills when the pedals are moving. So all in all, we're pretty happy with the bike's performance here. I think the experience that NIU has gained from its success in the electric moped and scooter industry has given it a unique perspective when it comes to making an e-bike. The C3 Pro is a different kind of bike, but I think it makes a lot more sense if you consider the overlap it shares with those other kinds of electric vehicles. Riders who want to pedal and provide input can do so pretty comfortably in PAS1, with a speedier but much more relaxed experience in PAS2. On the other hand, riders who want the motor to do all the work can just rely on the bike's throttle if they want, and the bike's third pedal assist system gives access to super fast travel at the cost of some simple and nearly effortless pedal motion. It's a unique approach that seems to blend the experiences that we've encountered on a few completely different types of bikes into something that is really well suited, pun intended, for commuters dealing with crowded city streets. We think the bike would benefit from a larger chainring to reduce ghost pedaling, and we think it might be more user-friendly if it either offered a wider range of pedal assist settings or allowed its user to adjust speed within the 3 settings it currently has. Otherwise, while it's a bit nitpicky, we think the NIU BQI-C3 Pro would probably appeal to more potential riders with a catchier name that rolled off the tongue a little easier. But as it stands, this bike has a lot going for it. It's fast, which makes it both fun and inherently safer in traffic. It has tremendous range thanks to its dual batteries. It's low maintenance because of its high-end belt drive, and it's easy and comfortable to use due to its step-thru frame, ergonomic design, single-speed drivetrain, and simple user interface. It also packs in some great safety certifications, and it's definitely one of the cleanest, sleekest looking e-bikes we've ever seen. Thanks for sticking with me this far. If you'd like to read more about our experiences on the bike, please check out the link to our written review in the video description. You'll also find a link to the NIU website where you can check current pricing on the C3 Pro and pick one up for yourself. Before we go, if you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe if you haven't already. It really does help us to grow and share more content. We'd love to hear from you in the comments section too, so let us know if you have any questions and what you thought about our review. That's all for today. Again, I'm John with Electric Bike Report, and this is the NIU BQI-C3 Pro.